Welcome back to the UFHL Now. I'm your host, Kyle Hall. We have a really exciting show for you today. We have some breaking news, some awesome news to share with you about the UFHL, which will come up in our Insider segment with Mr. Insider Larry Fisher. We also have a very exciting interview with one of our newest general managers, Ryan Schmelzer of the Gators franchise, also the Utica Comets captain. So, really exciting interview there. But before we send to those two interviews, I do want to take you around the UFHL and get to all the latest news and action from this last week. Taking a look at our standings now, we have a change in the top five. The number 3 West Coast Express move up and jump the Grizzlies into the third spot. The Grizzlies drop down to fourth spot. Also, our upcoming interview with the GM, the Gators jump up to the number 7 spot. They jump the Yeti, who are now down to the 8th spot, but the Titans stay atop of the standings. The Titans are they're a beast. We'll get into a little bit about the Titans later on with Larry as well. But the Royals stay in second. West Coast Express, as we said, now the third team. The Grizzlies in fourth, and Rock Republic standing strong there in the 5 spot. Very exciting. It's always great to see some movement there in the top 5, and a couple of the movements there. We'll show you also. There's recapping the movements here on our next slide on the next screen here of the changes. You can see West Coast Express up the 1 spot to number 3. The Grizz down to 1 spot to number 4. The Gators up 1 spot to number 7, and the Yetis dropping down the 1 spot to number 8. And now let's jump into our who's hot and who's not this week. Our first who's hot this week, Brad Marchand, the Express forward, the Boston Bruin, who everybody hates, had a big week this week. 36.06 fantasy points in his last 4 games, 6 goals and 4 assists and 10 points. I mean, for everything you say about the guy, he's a pain on the ice, but an unbelievable hockey player. And the Express, I'm sure, love to have him on their team after a huge week this week for the Boston Bruins forward. Our next who's hot this week, he's just off the injured reserve list, a new addition to the Bentley Jacks after a big time trade last week. Nikita Kucherov. This was a huge acquisition. In his first three games this season, he's got 7 goals and 4 assists for 7 points, 24.7 fantasy points. This guy just comes off long-term injury and just lights up the NHL. Just an unbelievable talent, unbelievable player. We saw this in the playoffs last year, how good he is. But Bentley Jacks, that trade looks better and better for them after this first week. And I'm sure they're thrilled to have him part of their team and part of the future after seeing his first week. And then our third who's hot this week, Marc-Andre Fleury, the goaltender. This guy, after a slow start this season, he's really heating up. 3-0 this last week with a 1.32 goals allowed, a 9.57 save percentage, absolutely ridiculous. 23.1 fantasy points in the last 3 games. Rock Republic, their stud goaltender really showed up this week. Just an unbelievable talent. And Fleury, who knows what happens towards the trade deadline? He could be someone that gets moved. He could be someone that his value can go up even higher. So we'll see. He was on the who's not hot candidate last week. So it's good to see him heating up again. For the who's not this week, our first, actually, if you are a Vancouver Canucks fan, this is the time of the program to turn this off, come back in 3 minutes, because you're not going to want to see who's not hot this week. It is a ugly showing for the Vancouver Canucks. Our first who's not hot this week, Elias Pettersson, the young center, really tough week for the Warriors. 7.69 fantasy points the last 4 games, 2 goals, 0 assists, 2 points. Just a really, really bad week for Pettersson. He's had a really slow start. I know he had some contract disputes and some injuries he was battling over the summer and then early in the season, but just a really tough week for the young forward. Our second who's not this week, his teammate, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, the big acquisition over the offseason, the Tornadoes defenseman, just a really poor week. 6.48 fantasy points in the last 4 games, 0 goals, just 1 assist. A guy who is known as a offensive defenseman who usually puts up big-time numbers. Really bad week for the Tornadoes star defenseman. Hopefully he can turn around that Canucks team. And it only gets worse because when you're not playing well on defense or on offense, you really need your goalie to step up. And unfortunately, our third member of the Who's Not list is the Vancouver Canucks goaltender, Thatcher Demko, who had a really bad week. 1-3 with a 3.54 goals allowed and 8.75 save percentage. The Cam West Generals goaltender got lit up this week. Only 5.10 points, fantasy points in his last 4 games. So rough outing for the Cam West Generals goaltender, and it's a real rough week for the Vancouver Canucks in general. I'm sorry to pick on them this week, but you got 3 guys who are superstars in the league, and they do that poorly. You got to point it out. Now let's take you around the league and share some of the latest news with you happening in the UFHL. First, we want to start off with a couple trades that happened this week. We had 2 veterans on the move. We'll bring up the graphic here 1 second. Our first trade, we had the Blizzard dealing Jeff Carter to the Kamikaze. The Blizzard, second straight week in a row, making a deal. We'll actually get into some more news about the Blizzard later on with Larry Fisher. But as you can see, a couple second-round picks on the move. Matthew Olivier on the move to the Blizzard, and Maxim Mammon also on the move to the Blizzard. So the Kamikaze get Jeff Carter, who actually has had a slow start to the this last week as well. He was on our possible not hot list as well. So Jeff Carter may be struggling a little bit, and the Blizzard might have moved on him because of that. But I think a good pickup for the Kamikazes here down the stretch. And another veteran on the move, Zach Parisi, gets traded. We'll bring up the graphic here in one moment. Actually, this graphic is messed up. We should have it the other way. The Royals are receiving Zach Parisi. The Warriors are sending him away. And Jake Leishman will be joining the Warriors, not the Royals. But a trade there of a couple second-round picks, but Zach Parisi on the move. The Islanders, who are off to a slow start, obviously, the Royals are hoping that the Isles pick it up here, and Parisi picks up his game towards the end of the year to help them make a final push towards the playoffs. But Zach Parisi, who has been a very good player in the past, is they're hoping that he can pick it up again. And Leishman's also a very solid player for the Warriors to pick up. In all, I think a pretty good trade for both teams. And then we want to get into our players of the week, brought to you by Elite Prospects. Congratulations to Brad Marchand. We just talked about him in the Who's Not, but he is our forward of the week, as well as his teammate Aaron Ekman as well, who's the defenseman player of the week. And we just talked about the goaltender of the week as well in Marc-Andre Fleury. So congratulations to those 3 on being named to our players of the week. Couple Express guys up there. Not bad week for the Express, having two of the top players of the week this week. So congrats to them. And now let's send to our interview guest, Utica Comets captain and one of the newest GMs of the UFHL, Ryan Schmelzer. It is my pleasure to bring into the show now Utica Comets captain and now the new general manager of the Gators, the recently purchased UFHL franchise, Ryan Schmelzer. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
So, first month or so, the UFHL hockey, how's it been? What's new to you? How's the field been so far?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's pretty cool. I already watched all the highlights and everything, and kept real close tabs on the NHL, and there's just more incentive to be able to watch that stuff and keep tabs on it, and actually have involvement in something, and there'd be a meaning to watching it, So it's been really cool to kind of feel it out, see how the league works, kind of get to know people, kind of establish new relationships with them. And it's we haven't really done much on our end as far as roster change, but it's really cool just to get our foot in the door here and just kind of see how everything works and get going.
I was gonna say, so what's the trade? What's cooking for you in the trade land? Is there anything you're trying to work out? Is there any area you're trying to improve? And as GM, can you make all the moves? Can you make yourself, or do you got to run up the family ladder there?
Yeah, that's been the challenge, I'd say, is both Corey Conacher and Shane Conacher. They're assistant GMs here, so we don't make a move unless we all agree upon it. As far as any immediate trades, we have floated a couple names out there as far as JBR. We were shopping Evan Rodriguez there for a bit, Torrey Krug, and there has been quite a bit of interest on all of them. We just haven't found the deal that's been right for us, but we're still looking to certainly make a move just to kind of say that this team is ours and credit Matt Gunn before he put this roster together and he's gotten it where it is now. But so we're definitely looking to get our hands on it and make it our own. But um, we're gonna wait for the right deal to do so.
And you guys were just featured in our standings movers and shakers section. The Gators are up to seventh now, moving up one spot from last week.
Yeah, I think when we took it over, we were in 10th. But again, credit to Matt Gunn. Oh, sorry there. Credit to Matt Gunn. He was the one that constructed this roster, and like I said, it's the same one that's still intact for him, and um, he's gotten it to where it is. But we like that we're climbing the standings, and everything's been pretty positive.
Now, between the UFHL franchise and also your AHL franchise to the Caymans, uh, I don't think you have one team, I believe, now on the Caymans franchise now. So, what is that like having a guy on your team also on a franchise that you run?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. When I looked at those names, it's kind of funny to see who are on there and see how many players you actually know and either played with or played against. And another one, we have me and Shane Conacher. We our line mate from college, Ralph Kademi. He's been in the Flyer system for a little bit. He's on the team, and so when we took that over, it was funny to send that to him right away and show him that he was on there. It's a pretty unique experience to be able to manage both fantasy and get to deal with these people in real life. It's pretty cool.
We had Ryan Malone on last week, and he has a couple former teammates on his team as well. Are there going to be maybe some future transactions for you of getting guys you know?
Definitely always looking. I think when I first took over the team here, we Alex Holtz was mentioned as to be on the trading block, and he was someone I really wanted to go after because just being able to see him day in and day out, the way he performs is awesome, and I think he's got a really bright future. So he was someone that we were looking to get, but I definitely think it'd be an advantage to get someone that I can see up close and that I see every day. So we are looking to get someone that I am a teammate of for sure.
And talk about Utica in general. What a great year you guys have had. Looked like you guys weren't going to lose there for the first part of the season. But how special has been this year so far?
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. We were we have somewhat of the same team that we had last year coming from Binghamton, and we weren't really good at all, so we didn't really know what our expectations were going to be. But we picked up some really good guys, some key veterans in the off season, and then our young goaltending duo of Nico Dawes and Akira Schmidt has been absolutely lights out for us, and has definitely stolen us a few games. And we think that we have a great roster moving forward. Obviously, depends how much New Jersey takes from us and vice versa. But we think we got a really good roster, and we're excited about where we're going.
How interesting has been the move been from Binghamton to Utica, playing a couple seasons in Binghamton now in Utica. What's that change been like? I know the team, the fans from Binghamton were very upset to see you guys go, but I know Utica has a history of hockey there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely sad to leave Binghamton. I was there for 3 years and really got to get comfortable there and got to know a lot of people there and had a lot of interactions with the fans and community. And it was a great place. They supported us whether we were good or bad. They loved having us there, and we loved playing in front of them. But there was always, I remember as a visiting team playing in Utica, it was always like, oh, here we go. The fans were always loud. They were on you. Like it was always a tough place to play. So now that it is our own home building, it's really advantageous for us, and it's great to see how this city kind of rallies around us. We've had great support from them, and it's been an absolute blast playing for them. So we hope as the season develops here and as we get closer to playoffs that we'll get even more support. Which I don't even know if that's possible because they've been awesome, but it'll be fun.
You were named the team captain before the season started. How special was that? I know you served as a team captain in college as well, so you know how to lead. You are a leader, and obviously someone that coaches recognize as a leader. But how special was that to be named a captain of this team?
Yeah, it always means a lot. Great honor for sure. I was pretty surprised that I was the one chosen to be captain because we have, like I said, the guys that we signed in the offseason, Brian Flynn, Joe Gambardella, the experience that they brought over from other teams and other leagues. They've had their resumes are pretty impressive for themselves. So to be chosen from Coach Kevin Deneen to be the captain, it's something that's really special to me, and it's really a great honor.
And how tough has COVID season been for you guys? Obviously, like you said, call ups constantly to the Devils, but also guys just going out, hours before game time, and we see more and more players getting assigned to PTOs now and just jumping on teams. So, as a leader of a team, how difficult, or what kind of steps have you taken to kind of get the guys together, or even bring new guys into the fold really quickly?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure. It feels like our team started getting hit pretty hard, like right before Christmas, and we're still going through it just because the Devils are going through it now, and it's been just kind of a double whammy here. But we're starting to get guys back, starting to get guys healthy, and yeah, the last month or so of games has been um, quite the whirlwind with rosters that are just different day in and day out. We're going short bodies a couple of times. Like we've had 10 forwards for a couple of nights, and it just changes the way you play the game. But at the same time, all these other teams are going through it too. There's no excuses. It's just a next man up mentality, and there's going to be guys that are asked to play more or do different roles, but everyone is here for a reason, and they're all capable of performing to a higher level. And we've done a pretty good job managing so far, and we are getting some bodies back, and it's nice to see all these guys, back in the room and going full speed again. So we look to get momentum going from getting everyone back.
Well, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck to the Gators on the stretch. I'm sure you guys will be active at the trade deadline, so maybe we'll touch base again with you then. But other than that, good luck to you in Utica and the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the Calder Cup finals.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We hope to be there too. But yeah, as far as the Gators go, we are looking to make moves. So, um, always reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out and communicate with us. We are looking to do something. So, we're excited for where we're going.
Well, everyone, you hear that? Hit up Ryan. He's open for trades. The Gators looking to get better, and they're ranked seventh right now, so they're looking to get into the top 10 soon, top five soon. Oh, Dan, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us. Wishing him all the best. Big Buffalo Bills fan as well, so big win for him this last weekend. And Ryan could have been on our Who's Hot list as well. He's got 3 goals and an assist in the last 5 games, so maybe I'll have to make it up to him next week and add him to the Who's Hot list if he keeps it going. But thanks so much, Ryan, for joining us. And now we send it over to our Insider segment with Mr. Insider, Larry Fisher. Larry, what's cooking in the UFHL this week?
Hey, Kyle, that was a great interview with Ryan. And definitely a big news in the hockey world this week, Kyle, was the All-Star announcement in the NHL. Obviously, the rosters were unveiled, and then there was some debate over the rosters, but nonetheless, they're gearing up for All-Star Weekend on February 5th. And this has been something that's been in the works for a while, Kyle, but we're able to finally announce plans to host a UFHL All-Star game as an esports tournament on NHL 2022. So really looking forward to that. All the details aren't hammered out yet as far as what platform or who the gamers will be. But again, as we like to do, mirroring the real world as far as 4 division rosters of 6 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 2 goaltenders in a 3-on-3 esports tournament format. Rosters will be based on UFHL fantasy points at the NHL All-Star break on February 2nd. But just a really exciting thing for the UFHL to further mirror the real world by bringing on an all-star game or all-star tournament, and already a lot of excitement behind the scenes, Kyle, and Andrea Karandek, our commissioner, who does great work with a lot of the graphics and a lot of the uniforms in the UFHL and the UFWJ, and now the UFHL All-Star game. And we can take a look at those uniforms today, Kyle, because we're ready to reveal them already. So that's part of the exciting announcement for the All-Star plans, is that we can reveal the jerseys, starting with the Gretzky division, Kyle. Very exciting. Again, you got the we went sort of with the color themes of the players when they played, right, where they played. So obviously Gretzky, get a bit of the Oiler colors here. Really like the Gretzky division uniforms. And then they represent obviously the Allen Conference along with the Lemieux division. And the Lemieux division, obviously, you're going with the yellow and gold. So very exciting to have the Lemieux division jersey reveal or uniform revealed as well. And there you go. The yellow really pops with the Lemieux division. And they'll represent, obviously, those two rosters will represent the Allen Conference. And then over in the Legends Conference, we have the Orr division. And obviously, the Pittsburgh Boston colors are fairly similar. So we had to tweak the Orr and went with a little bit more of a gold and the solid black for their uniforms. And last but not least, the Howe division. Obviously, we know Gordie Howe, big career with the Detroit Red Wings, got them the white and red. So very exciting reveals of the all-star uniforms. And actually, Kyle, we're going to be voting. The division captains will be voted on through the Twitter polls. So exciting to get some fan engagement as well to help us select the captains for the all-star rosters.
That's awesome. I love the Howe jerseys. Those white jerseys, they look so good with the red. I'm a big fan of those. I like the Gretzky ones too. Maybe they could have made them Ranger colors. I understand going with the Oiler colors, but all in all, unbelievable job, Andrew. They're incredible jerseys. I cannot wait for this event. It's gonna be so cool. When we first got a sneak peek of that look this last weekend, I was so pumped to hear that. And there's so many great ideas that are swirling around there from the people who know more than I do what to do with this. So I am so excited to see it all play out. It's gonna be an awesome event.
And the rosters too. It's cool to take a look today at the projected rosters for the UFHL All-Star teams. And so you got the Gretzky division, and you're looking at Leon Draisaitl, again, 6 forwards, 3 defenders, and 2 goaltenders. And there's some battles for roster spots. We're going to mirror the NHL, Kyle, which was a hot topic of debate this week, whether or not every franchise should be represented. Guys like Nazem Kadri got snubbed in the NHL, and as we go through these rosters, you'll see the same in the UFHL. But with the Gretzky division, the Grizzlies leading the way right at the top with 2 forwards and Leon Draisaitl and Nazem Kadri. The Godfathers would be sending Mikko Rantanen. The Red Army would be sending Kirill Kaprizov as sort of the top 4 forwards. And then again, because you need representatives from every franchise, Anze Kopitar of the Stallions and Matt Duchene of the North Stars as of today would make the cut ahead of Chris Kreider and Ryan Hartman, who actually have more fantasy points, but Kopitar and Duchene would get the bump to round out the forward group. And on defense, you'd have John Carlson of the Godfathers, Moritz Seider of the Battlehawks, and Seth Jones would get the bump to get the Monarchs a representative ahead of Brent Burns and Quinn Hughes. And then you look at the goaltenders, and this is where it's really interesting for that Gretzky division. You got Igor Shesterkin just pulled a weekend, your Rangers goaltender from Red Army to be the starter as of today for the Gretzky division. Thatcher Demko, straight off the Who's Not Hot, would be the Can West Generals representative for the All-Star. He was the goaltender of the month in the UFHL for December, so he's won a couple of goaltender of the week awards. He's had a good season, but coming off a down week, he would get to be the representative for the Generals. He's technically behind Sergei Bobrovsky of the Battlehawks in fantasy points. So very interesting there with the Gretzky division. And then you look at the Lemieux division, and no surprise with the top 2 forwards there. You got Connor McDavid from the Yetis and Austin Matthews from the Blades of Steel. The Blades of Steel also sending Gabriel Landeskog among the forwards. And then the Stingrays would be sending Jake Gensel, and the Ice Vikings would be sending Tom Wilson. The Blizzard, they need a representative on the All-Star roster, so they would get Jesper Bratt, as of today, would be their leading point getter as a forward. He'd actually bump out your Ranger Mika Zibanejad, as well as guys that are on the cusp
Rangers
of
getting
making that
bumped
All-Star.
out here, Larry.
Just wait, it gets better.
Out. Unbelievable. Kreider, Zibanejad. At least Igor is going to get in this time. He got snubbed in the NHL.
Exactly. Just wait, it gets better on this Lemieux division roster here. You're gonna be pulling your hair out right away. But Mika Zibanejad got bumped out, as well as guys like Joe Pavelski, Brady Tkachuk, Alex DeBrincat. There's a lot of guys that are contenders to make that roster among the forwards. And here's where it gets really interesting on the defense side. Roman Josi of the Crypto Knights, Alex Pietrangelo of the Warriors of the Eliminators, and Devin Taves. The Warriors need a representative in the All-Star game. It ends up being Devin Taves. And I'll give you a guess who gets bumped out, shockingly here, from the Stingrays. Another Ranger that's reigning Yeah, the reigning Norris Trophy winner, Adam
Unbelievable.
Fox, as of today of the Stingrays,
Unbelievable.
just because
Most
the
disrespected
Eliminators,
defenseman in hockey.
the Eliminators and the Warriors need an All-Star rep. That's how it works in the NHL. So, unfortunately, as of today, just the way that the cards fall, the Adam Fox, who's reigning Norris winner, wouldn't be making the UFHL All-Star game, which, like I said, is a shame unless you wiggle around. Maybe you get Elias Pettersson, who is also on the who's not list. Maybe you let him represent the Warriors. Knock out Tom Wilson. You'd probably be happy with that. Take Tom Wilson out and let Adam Fox get in there for the Stingrays to have an extra rep. But interesting how that would work. Again, the Ice Vikings need a rep, so Tom Wilson would have to be in there. But again, there's still, these rosters aren't finalized until February 2nd. So you got to hope Mika Zibanejad heats up. He's only exactly 2 fantasy points behind Tom Wilson. So there you go. And they both play for the Ice Vikings. So you can root on Zibanejad and hope he knocks Tom Wilson out of the All-Star group there. And then the goaltenders for the Lemieux division would be Tristan Jarry of the Yetis and Frederick Anderson of the Kryptonites. But definitely some Rangers on the outside looking in the Lemieux division.
Yeah, no, it's very easy for me to root for Tom Wilson not to get fantasy points and Mika to get fantasy points. It's very easy for me to do that. And Mika's been hot lately too, so hopefully he can catch him. I don't keep too close of an eye on Tom Wilson. I'm sure he's having a good season too, though. But yeah, Mika's heating up, so it's crazy that, like you said, very interesting to see who's in, who's not. And yeah, unfortunately, a couple Rangers there not.
Yeah, and then seeing how it'll develop. I mean, we're at January 17th, going to February 2nd, so still a couple weeks of gameplay. And the Orr division's interesting too. Forwards at the top, a couple Rock Republic players, Timo Meyer and Sebastian Aho are in. Vladimir Tarasenko of the Kamikaze would be among that forward group. And then this is a division where 3 of the 6 forwards would be bumped up in order to get a representative from every franchise. So you'd have Andrei Svechnikov of Strong Island, Riley Smith of the Assassins, and Rupe Hintz of the Brutes, getting in ahead of Pavel Buchnevich of the Titans, Patrice Bergeron of Rock Republic, and William Nylander of the Titans. Obviously, David Pasternak's been hot lately. He's in the mix. Marcus Foligno, also of the Titans, and Sam Bennett of Kamikaze are within striking distance among the forwards. Now, the defenders, this one's interesting. Back on the blue line, Mackenzie Weegar and Cale Makar, both of the Titans, are 1-2. Everybody knows how good Cale Makar is. How he's probably one of the Norris contenders, but Mackenzie Weegar actually has 160.09 fantasy points. Cale Makar has 147.05. Mackenzie Weegar is one of those guys that hits every single category. He's having a huge year for Florida. And then rounding out the defense as of now, because again, every franchise needs a rep, is actually Dougie Hamilton of Duckman's Domination. He's out with a broken jaw in Carolina, but he's at 100.11 fantasy points. He would round out the defense for the Orr division. But depending what happens with Duckmans over the next couple of weeks, I saw Jeff Skinner a couple more points today for the Sabres, and Phil Kessel of the Arizona Coyotes. It would be funny to see Kessel and Skinner, 2 of the much maligned forwards in the NHL, potentially battling to pass Dougie Hamilton to make the cut, potentially knock off Vladimir Tarasenko as a forward, get one of those guys in there instead of Hamilton, which would open the door to a guy like Jacob Trouba of Kamikaze or Morgan Riley of the Titans. On the back end, goaltenders, no surprise in the Orr division, strongest division for goaltending this season. Andrei Vasilevsky of the Titans and Jack Campbell of the Snipers. So some interesting battles in that division for All-Stars between now and February 2nd as well. And last but not least, the Howe division. Up front, no surprise, the Royals leading the way with 2 representatives, Alex Ovechkin and Jonathan Huberdeau. West Coast Express would be sending Brad Marchand, who's obviously one of the fresh off a Player of the Week honor. Dynasty gets Steven Stamkos. I know he was on the Who's Not Hot list last week, and I was actually somewhat surprised that Stamkos didn't make the Who's Hot list this week. He had a real bounce back week, but like you said, his running mate Nikita Kucherov stole the show for Tampa. So, but Dynasty would be sending Steven Stamkos, which I'm sure Ryan Malone would be happy with. The Gators would be sending JT Miller up front, and then again, because every franchise needs to be representative, the Tornadoes would get Drake Batherson into the All-Star game ahead of Yevgeny Kuznetsov. Tanner Jeanette's having a wicked season for the Mystics. And then guys that are close and can turn it up over these next couple of weeks that you almost expect. Matthew Tkachuk of the Royals, Nathan McKinnon of the Gators, Johnny Gaudreau of West Coast Express. So lots of contenders. Artemi Panarin of the Outlaws. He's within 15 points of making the All-Star game, so he goes on a run for your Rangers. The Outlaws could get Artemi Panarin in there. And then on defense, you got Victor Hedman of the Mystics, Aaron Ekblad of West Coast Express, who, like I said about Mackenzie Weegar, they're having a great year in Florida. And then again, with every franchise getting represented, we got a snub on defense in the Howe division with Charlie McAvoy getting in as the Bentley Jacks rep ahead of Chris Letang of the Outlaws. And Letang's having a great year for Pittsburgh. He's not far behind Hedman and Ekblad, quite a ways ahead of Charlie McAvoy. But McAvoy having a good year for Boston, and he's the leading point getter for the Bentley Jacks, and they need to be represented. So instead, the Outlaws would be represented in goal by UC Saros, who's the leading point getter for goaltenders in the UFHL. And he'd be backed up by Jacob Markstrom of the Gators, although Robin Lehner of West Coast Express and Darcy Kemper of Bentley Jacks are within striking distance. So lots of roster battles, but those are the projected rosters as of today for the UFHL All-Star game that we're thrilled to announce.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this event. This is going to be awesome. Even if 7 Rangers are getting snubbed on this list, it sounds like it should be a really fun event, though. And Larry, we had a couple other little smaller. I'm sorry, we want to get to first. You have a great segment on the rise of the Titans. The Titans are the number 1 team in the UFHL now. You had a great segment with them, and talk more about their rise to prominence here.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one. Actually, Battlehawks general manager Mick Bertoni got my mind spinning on this one because he said, what a run by the Titans, and that he'd be curious to see the partial total since it started. So I went and crunched some numbers. The Titans got off to a slow start, Kyle. They were actually outside of the top 10 at the end of October. On Halloween, October 31st, the Titans were in 11th place, and they were 84.12 points behind the first place Royals. They were sitting 8th place through the first month. So from October 12th through November 12th of the NHL season, the Titans were 145.94 points behind the first place Grizzlies at that time. Now you see the standings. The Titans are 150 points up on the Royals for first place. But they really started coming on strong towards the end of November. They were up to 3rd place at the end of November within 100 points of first place Royals. And then where they really took off was, again, that November 13th. The Titans led the UFHL from November 13th through the November 30th through the end of the month. They had 38.67 more points than the runner-up Royals from November 13th to November 30th to close out the month of November. And then they were essentially tied with the Royals for first place through December 30th. The morning of New Year's Eve, they were tied for first place in the UFHL standings. The Royals pulled ahead again on New Year's Eve to end 2021 in first place, but they were 25.1 points up on second place Titans. So the Royals, Kyle, entering the new year on January 1st, were 25 points up in first place. Here we are on January 17th, and you can see the Royals are in second place, but the Titans have really took off. They're 150 points up. So just shows you, again, how dominant the Titans have been. But the Titans led the UFHL in the month of December again. So they led in that back half of November. They led throughout the month of December. They were first place in December with 67.43 points more than the runner-up Royals. And then, as we know, the Titans have really pulled away in 2022, leading the Royals, by a significant margin. At one point, it was 167.71 points on January 13th, which essentially is 3 months into the NHL UFHL season from October 12th to January 13th. The Titans were up by 167.71 points. And one thing that's interesting, the Titans actually tied for first and trailing West Coast Express as the hottest franchise to start 2022. As you saw, 2 West Coast Express players among the players of the week, with obviously Brad Marchand and Aaron Ekblad. So West Coast Express, keep an eye on them moving up the standings. They're up to 3rd now, but they're gaining fast on the Royals as well. One of the hottest franchises. If you look at the Royals, they're actually ranked 18th in January as of January 13th. Ovechkin's picked it up a little bit since then, but they've really been missing guys like Andrej Palat, Jacob Chychrun and Jacob Slavin, the Jacobs on their blue line. Tim Stützle was out for a bit. All the Calgary postponements, they missed Matthew Tkachuk there. But since November 1st, the Titans have been leading the Royals by 226.82 fantasy points. They are 1-2 since then. But all these numbers, as you can see, basically November 13th, the Titans kicked it into high gear. And again, guys like David Pastrnak, super slow start. Colorado in general, the Leafs in general, the Titans have lots of players from those two NHL teams. They got off to a bit slower starts. Cale Makar's come on, as we said, he's scoring highlight reel goals every night. Andre Vasilevsky can't lose. Like, when you got a franchise built around Pastrnak, Makar, and Vasilevsky, you're in great shape. But what the Titans also have is a ton of depth. And one guy I haven't even mentioned, Mark Scheifele. Scheifele could get hot like Pastrnak at any time. And if that happens, then really look out for the Titans. But they're built to win now, and they've been on fire since mid-November.
Yeah, and I believe they're the preseason favorites as well. I think they were the number one preseason team. I know when I did my mystery power rankings, I had them in the top 3. I love the roster. I think that they're a really well built team. Like you were saying, they have great depth. Um, I think they're a team that I think towards the end here they're going to be obviously right there. But the top 5 right now is a really strong top 5. Look at the rosters of the top 5; they're really strong. We had a little bit of a movement there in the top 5 this week. West Coast Express, I mean, they had a great week. Players of the week left and right. They're moving up. They jump into up to a 3rd spot. So it's gonna be really exciting here down the stretch, and I hope we see a couple more blockbuster trades towards the end here. And actually, we had 2 trades this last week, not as big as last week's blockbusters, but still pretty significant trades.
Yeah, we did. And the interesting thing in the UFHL, Kyle, it seems like whenever there's a trade, that player gets an immediate bump. Like, they know they got traded and they got to step it up for their new franchise. Or me and Dean always had the running joke that if they end up on the trade block, put your player on the trade block, because he's probably going to score the next game to increase his trade value or to prove his worth and want to stay with your franchise. But Jeff Carter, 2 goals in his Kamikaze debut this week. He gets traded in the morning, goes out and scores 2 goals for Kamikaze in his debut, even though he ended up being on the who's not list, not hot list, or certainly mentioned as a player that wasn't hot. He did score 2 goals in his Kamikaze debut. And Zach Parise, on the flip side, had 2 assists in his Royals debut. So kind of cool how that worked. Both the veteran guys, Carter and Parise, both getting on the score sheet, 2 goals and 2 assists in their debuts. And certainly, you look at Kamikaze, who's in 6th place, trying to close the gap on trying to hold off those Gators, trying to hold off Ryan Schmelzer's Gators, as well as the Yetis and the Stingrays. They're all very tightly grouped in that 5 to 10 range, but they're all trying to catch Rock Republic, and more so the Grizzlies and West Coast Express in the top end. So any little boost, and Jeff Carter, certainly a guy, as Pittsburgh gets healthy here, he could heat up as well with a better supporting cast with Malkin back and Gensel and the rest of the gang. So that trade was big. And then Zach Parise to the Royals. Again, the Royals just trying to get going in 2022, because they got off to a slow start to this year. And certainly the Titans have been pulling away. So the Royals looking to get guys in the lineup that are healthy and can fill a roster spot and chip in some points. And certainly the Islanders have played the least games in the NHL because of all their postponements. What a weird year for the Islanders. Start out with that huge road trip and then get shut down from COVID, and now have the least games played, and they're going to be playing every second night, if not more, coming up soon. So to get Zach Parise, knowing he has a lot more games remaining, and being a total points league, you get all those extra games from Parise now. I think that's a smart move from the Royals to target a player from the Islanders. And like you said, hope that 37-year-old Zach Parise can pick up the pace down the stretch. But the Warriors having a tough year. Guys like Elias Pettersson underachieving, and Blake Wheeler's been hurt a lot of the year. So looking to go into more of a rebuild. And Jake Lecision is a guy that a younger guy, just 22 years old. They like the upside there, kind of a retool for the future, because they probably won't be contending next season. And then Parise is going to be getting closer to retirement. So a couple trades this week. Also this morning, Kyle, a bit of a breaking trade for us. A swap of Finnish defenders. The Assassins acquired Olli Juolevi, along with Ryan McLeod, a forward from the Oilers. But Olli Juolevi, who formerly in Vancouver, top 5 pick, didn't really pan out there. Now in Florida, they're trying to get him up to speed to be an NHL defender. But Olli Juolevi and Ryan McLeod to the Assassins in exchange for Yanni Hakanpää to Rock Republic. So Rock Republic adds, they saw that move by Kamikaze. Kamikaze goes out and gets Jeff Carter. Well, what's Rock Republic going to do? They bring in Yanni Hakanpää, not the biggest name, but a guy who scores well in the UFHL. Hits, blocks, he gets penalty minutes. He gets a lot of those categories. He's a good plus-minus player. So Yanni Hakanpää, another boost for Rock Republic on the back end, upgrading Finnish defenders from Jolevi to Hakanpää.
You had some insider tips this week on some of the action as we get towards the trade deadline here. So, what are some of your insider tips you got?
Yeah, we're getting to that point in the season where you really got to start looking at games played and monitoring some different things. So one thing you got to really watch is the waiver status because you know the way the cap friendly waivers calculated, the way the NHL cap system works, and that should be your best friend. Always check that waivers calculator to double check when you're doing moving guys down to the minors and stuff. Because the last thing you want is to lose somebody to a forced waivers auction, a young talent that has no longer exempt, because that status of exempt can expire mid-season. There's two different filters that determine whether or not you're waiver eligible or waiver exempt in the NHL. One is how many seasons you've played, and one is how many games you've played. So there are a number of players that are getting close to the threshold of games remaining for this season before they're no longer waiver exempt. They usually talk about in the NHL, oh, this guy's either getting sent down now because he's close to the cut, or they're gonna keep him up and now they can't send him down without waivers. But certainly pay attention to your waiver status of your young guys. And then the other thing is pay attention to the scout-owned players, because when those scout-owned prospects get to 26 games played, career regular season NHL games, or 26 years old, they become eligible for a forced auction. So a franchise, if they see somebody that's owned by a scout that's played 26 career NHL games, they can request that player be put up for auction into the UFHL. So you're looking at the scout-owned players, the free agents essentially within the UFHL. As they hit 26 games played or turn 26 years old, you can put them up for auction from the scouts, as well as definitely you don't want to lose a player to an auction that you're really high on because you sent him down. Guys that turned recently, Capo Kakko, which was actually a smart move by the Blizzard. They put Kakko down in their minors prior to his 28th game of the regular season. And now it's up to them. They can stash him in the minors for the remainder of the regular season, and he'd have to clear waivers like everybody else in the preseason, like he would in the NHL next season. But if they're building for next year, they can keep Kako on the protected list and free up that active roster spot for a trade acquisition. Elias Sorokin from the Islanders is no longer waiver exempt, but there's a lot of them around the league. Guys like Alex Teixeira, Jack Hughes. There's a lot of these guys that are close to the end of their waiver exempt. Even the guys in the trade there, Maxime Mammon and Matthew Olivier are both close as well. So Blizzard acquired those guys. They're going to have to keep an eye on where they're at for waiver status too. So waiver status and scout-owned player status are two things that at this time of the year you really want to keep tabs on as a franchise and as well as a scout. If you own those players that are getting close, the clock is ticking. You got to sell them or you might end up losing them to a forced auction.
The Blizzard have been in the news a lot recently between trades. Like you're saying, they're being active with their waivers. They also made a huge announcement this last week that is, very exciting for people who want to get involved in this league.
Yeah, potential franchise sale. Showtime, David Aid has put the Blizzard up for sale. Hasn't really attached an asking price, open to negotiations, but certainly the bar's been set high by the three most recent franchise sales. Obviously, Dynasty and Red Army both sold for $75,000 USD in July. And then the most recent one just this past December, as you mentioned, and Ryan Schmelzer in the fold now, but the Gators franchise for $80,000 USD. So you're somewhere in that range, but there are a lot of prospective owners that are interested in putting together ownership groups and getting involved with the UFHL. And this is the case for Showtime. He also has a football franchise in the Ultimate Fantasy American Football League, our version of the NFL. And he's got a baseball franchise that's about to start drafting and bidding on prospects and everything else in the Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball, UFLB, with Dean Millard. So Showtime's just looking to, he's not a huge hockey guy. He kind of bought the Blizzard for $50,000 USD back in May and was basically thinking, this is my foot, because that was at that time, hockey was our only sport still in May. He wanted to get his foot in the door of the UFFS ecosystem, see how it all works, and decide if he wanted to buy a football franchise, buy a baseball franchise. Now that he's settled in, he's got three franchises. He'd like to put his resources and his time towards the sports he's more passionate about, football and baseball, and allow another hockey fan to get involved and take on the Blizzard. And there are a few franchises for sale in addition to the Blizzard. Obviously, the Monarchs with Joe Bowman and George Batchel are interested in negotiating a potential sale, as well as the Mystics with Derek Keller and Colin Mills. So Stefan Hoffman is a new role at UFFS in franchise acquisitions, helping facilitate sales connecting with buyers and sellers. So Stefan will be involved in these sale processes, but there are a few UFHL franchises. There's only 32 of them ever. There's only one NHL league. So this is your chance to get your hands on the Blizzard or one of those other franchises and be one of that exclusive 32 member ownership group. So definitely some sales at the UFHL level and even at the UFAHL, Kyle, which is our version of the American Hockey League. Gameplay hopefully starting in October of this year for the 22-23 American Hockey League season. But UFAHL affiliate actually of the Warriors, the UFHL Warriors affiliate, known as the Pack. It's owned by Andy Little. We affectionately know him as Blockchain Andy in the blockchain world. He bought that franchise, the Pack, the UFAHL affiliate, as a show of support for UFFS, just to get involved and have a stake. But he's not really a hockey guy either, not a big hockey fan. And Andy's willing to let that franchise go to somebody who wants to get in maybe at a cheaper entry point, start with a minor league franchise and see what the UFHL and UFFS is all about. So the Pack's available at the UFAHL, and then up in the Pro League and the NHL level league, the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, you got the Blizzard, the Monarchs, and the Mystics are currently entertaining offers.
Well, there you go. If you want to get involved in the UFHL, I mean, there's 3 opportunities. The Blizzards have a really good team, so whoever takes over that franchise, they're going to have some very solid players to start off with there. But Larry, thanks so much for the insight this week. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks, Kyle. And yeah, the Blizzard just landed Tyler Seguin as another face of the franchise. Obviously, they moved out Jeff Carter, but they do have a budding Ranger in Capo Caco and a Travis Konechny from the Flyers, a bunch of other good players. So an exciting franchise. I believe they have 17 draft picks, Kyle, over the next 3 years, including 9 first-round picks in 2022, 2023, and 2024. So whoever buys that franchise, they might be in the running for a guy like Connor Bedard or Matvey Mishkov next year as well. So exciting potential with that franchise, and certainly looking to help Showtime market that franchise and get it out there that the Blizzard are for sale.
Yeah, no, it's a good, like you said, that's, you want to rebuild a franchise and put your own spin on something. I mean, that's a franchise to get then. All those draft picks, you can really make it your own.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Larry. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, Kyle.
And before we sign off, I do want to go over our Twitter poll from last week. We asked all of our followers on Twitter, who do you think will be the leading goaltender in fantasy points towards the end of this season? And 38.1% of you said Andrei Vasilevsky of the Lightning will lead the league. UC Saros, who's the current leader, came in second place, followed by Tristan Jarry and Jack Campbell there in fourth place. So this week we want to put up a new poll for you, and it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple question. Which Oilers superstar will end the season with more fantasy points? Connor McDavid at 195.15 currently, or Leon Draisaitl at 191. So 2 of the absolute superstars in the NHL, obvious Oiler teammates, but who's going to end this year or more fantasy points? Let us know on the UFHL Twitter account. We'll be posting that tonight. So please let us know who you think is going to win. And that does it for this week. We'll see you next week.